welcome back to Friday Night Fights. Now, Max was all excited early on because he was talking about Henry Armstrong. He's got so much respect for a guy who won titles in 3 different classes and almost won a 4th. Now, this is pound-for-pound month here on The Deuce. So we look back at one of the classics, one of the greatest of all times, Henry Armstrong.
How good was Henry Armstrong? At a time in boxing when there were only 8 weight divisions, Armstrong held world titles in 3 of those 8, all at the same time: featherweight, welterweight, and lightweight. Born in Mississippi in 1912 as Henry Jackson, he found boxing when literally working on the railroad. One day at age 16, while employed at the Missouri Pacific Company, he read a newspaper that highlighted Kid Chocolate's win and his $70,000 purse. Henry sensed his talents could be better served there, and so a career change was in order. California was his next stop. He fought over 150 amateur fights as Melody Jackson. In 1931, he turned pro and changed his last name to Armstrong after one of his trainers. Henry was dubbed the names Perpetual Motion and Homicide Hank for his relentless barrage of non-stop punching. He had the unique style of being able to look down at his opponent's feet while still being able to batter the head and the body of his victim. He was so good he became the first black fighter to headline at the Los Angeles Olympic Auditorium, the Madison Square Garden of the West Coast. In 1937, Hollywood entertainers Al Jolson and George Raft bought Henry's contract for $10,000. That year, he knocked out Pete Saran to win the World Featherweight Championship. But that wasn't enough for Jolson and Raft, who wanted Henry Armstrong to rival heavyweight champion Joe Louis for boxing's headlines. 7 months after winning the featherweight title, he fought Barney Ross at the 147-pound limit and won the world welterweight crown. 2.5 months later, and already owning 2 active world championships, Armstrong lost 13 pounds to fight Lou Ambers for the world lightweight title. It was a brutal fight, with Armstrong swallowing his own blood for the last 6 rounds. After 15 grueling rounds, Henry was the split decision victor and boxing's first triple belt holder. When not making money from fighting, Armstrong was spending plenty of it on clothes, booze, and women. He was a Hollywood playboy, having spent time with such leading ladies as Lena Horne, Dorothy Dandridge, and Josephine Baker. He even gave away Ava Gardner to Frank Sinatra at their marriage. But Henry wasn't only a ladies' man. He enjoyed painting, poetry, and musical composing. On March 1, 1940, Armstrong took on Seferino Garcia for the world middleweight title. Armstrong appeared to outbox Garcia, but the fight was called a draw by the referee, who it was alleged was paid off. Henry Armstrong continued to fight until February of 1945. He retired to his California lifestyle with a record of 150 wins, 100 by knockout, only 21 losses, and 9 draws. He also left the ring with no money, $1 million gone. After spending time on Skid Row in Los Angeles, his friends from St. Louis brought him home, where he devoted much of his time with local boys' clubs, an association that he truly loved. Shortly thereafter, he became a Baptist minister. After his rebirth, Henry's life was saddened when his wife, Willa Mae, suffered a heart attack at home. She died in Henry's arms on their way to the hospital. He was to remarry and move back to California, but the remainder of his days were lived in relative seclusion. Henry Armstrong died in 1988 at the age of 76. At the time of his death, he was again penniless, but during his heyday, Henry Armstrong lived life to the fullest.
A ferocious fighter. Any guy named Homicide, I don't want to get in the ring with.
Oh, one of the greatest nicknames of all time, certainly in any sport. Look, there's a thing about Henry Armstrong. Everyone talks about the 3 world titles in 3 separate weight classes. It was 4. He beat Seferino Garcia in 10 rounds for the middleweight title. The fix was in, and Armstrong was given the draw. In any objective analysis of ring history, Armstrong is a 4-division world titleist when there were only 8 classical world titles, only 8 classic weight divisions, only 8 titles in boxing. That's 50% of the titles in boxing. Today, you'd have to win 27 titles to do that. Teddy, you have Armstrong rated where I do, right after Ray Robinson. Thoughts about Henry Armstrong?
Yeah, Henry Armstrong, Hammerin' Hank. Anytime you're great, you have more than one nickname, not just Homicide Hank, Hammerin' Hank. He never stopped punching. This is a guy who, as you said, simultaneously, though, held 3, not titles, Not like Tommy Hearns. He's great, Tommy Hearns, but he held in between titles. They're talking about 6. Henry Armstrong held full titles. No in between. Featherweight, lightweight, welterweight. Fought that fight with Garcia, as you said, didn't get the win. Most people thought that he won the fight. Perpetual motion, never stopped. I remember Customato when he was starting to talk about how Mike Tyson, a young Mike Tyson, was going to fight. You know who he picked? Henry Armstrong. We want to be a Henry Armstrong. Keep coming. Never stop punching.
Of course, if Tyson fought like Armstrong right now, he might be the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
Pretty amazing to hold all of those titles simultaneously. Tell you about something else. Very different from boxing, but...